Welcome into Gross Profits, where today we're going to talk about the thing that has been burning on your mind. Effective leadership. And what are the three key components? You do not want to miss this episode. Stay with us. Hi folks, I'm Sean Crabtree.
And I'm Cameron Bailey.
You got one shot at this life.
Why would you not make it the best that it can be?
This show comes to you weekly about happier clients, better results, making more money, and enjoying the ride.
Let's get started.
And welcome back to Growth Profits, the show that comes to you every single week. Today, as you know, this show is always about you having happier clients, better results, making more money, and enjoying the ride. Today, we're going to talk about the number one most important thing. You do not want to miss a single second of this episode. What we're talking about is the three components of effective leadership. Now, why is this important? Why should you be listening, and why are we talking about this? Because I can tell you, in working with businesses all over the United States, the Caribbean, and Western Canada, this slippery concept of leadership is one of the number one things that gives most entrepreneurs the biggest fit. You know, leadership is not something that is taught in most universities and colleges. It's not something that most people really have a good idea of what it looks like. And it's something that everybody questions whether or not the way they're being is effective when it comes to leadership. This is the number one burning thing when it comes to not only the success of your business, but all the things that we talk about: happier clients, better results, making more money, and you having the ability to enjoy the ride. Because without the leadership, you are going to stress yourself out of business. I can tell you that. Business has enough stresses, right? Without adding to it. So what we're talking about here are the three components to effective leadership. And there's a lot of different ways that I could have gone with this, but I really want to talk about the three major things. There's more, obviously, in terms of what we've learned over the last little more than 2 decades in working with offices all over the place. But there's three major components that we see entrepreneurs struggling with all of the time. The number one key component to effective leadership, and what I'm about to say, I know, is going to hit some people the wrong way, but hear me out on this. The number one key component to effective leadership is what not to do. And that's this. An effective leader is somebody who does not have or is unwilling to have all the answers. Now, if you're listening to this and you're going, dude, that just goes totally in the face of not only how I've run my business, but that goes totally in the face of, everything that I thought leadership was. Let me say that again. A leader is not someone who has all the answers. If you're going to be an effective leader, there is a lot of value, tons of value in you not having every single answer to every single thing. Now, what are we talking about here? Well, let's take 2 specific scenarios. And I'm thinking of a current client right now who is in the throes of this. Let's call him John. John has by all accounts, successful business. He's not setting the world on fire. He's paying the bills. He's taking a little bit of money home. He is not in a upward trajectory, but he is able to make the ends meet, so to speak. The biggest challenge, here we have John. The biggest challenge with John is just choking, because the way things are working out in John's business and the way they have been working out over the last 20 years is John has put himself in the absolute center of a giant circle, which is his business. And he is in the center of this business that is constantly revolving around him. And every single person in that circle is running to John for every little thing that goes on. And John is just being crushed under the weight of the business. Now, from a stress standpoint, obviously, it's killing him. From a growth standpoint, here's the problem. John is so focused on making decisions, a lot of times in the minutia, right, of the day-to-day running of the business, that he's not able to propel the business forward in a big way. And like most entrepreneurs, John is in a situation where he is wearing every single hat in the place. The most important hat that he can wear is what I would call the supervisor of production. But he's not able to give the supervisor of production role a total heart focus because he's also the the marketing supervisor. He's the bookkeeper. Like he is the vice president of sales. He's the director of sales. John is wearing every single hat, not because he doesn't have people, but because the way he structured it, he's in the center of everything. Everybody knows John owns the place. If you have a question, you go to John, right? So the whole thing is just turning around him. If John is not there, it goes away. This is unfortunately way too common of a situation. It's stressful for John. The business is choking because everything has to be filtered through John. The business can't be as successful as it could be. But here's another killing thing that people don't realize. The people on his team are not inspired to think of themselves as partners in the business. They're not inspired to take on responsibility because John has positioned himself so that he has all the answers. Everybody comes to John. Nobody takes any authority in how decisions should be made. Everybody goes to John. So everybody on the team is thinking of themselves as an employee, small employee. Do what you're told, right? Operate within the lines. There's no growth there. There's no forward movement. It's not empowering for the people on the team. It's not growth oriented for the business. And it's very, very stressful for John. Now over here, I've got David. David is very clear that being a great leader, the number one component to being a great leader is being unwilling or not having to know the answer. So therefore, in his mind, first of all, things are laid out completely differently. John views himself as a very clear-cut role that he has, which we'll talk about in just a second. More importantly, he views the people on his team as partners in his business. He is not there to be at the center of all things in his business. He looks at the people on his team as people who take responsibilities for different chunks of the area, of the business, and he has his own chunk. It's a completely different environment. The business, I happen to have been working with this business for about the last 14 years. This business has grown consistently through 2007, 8, and 9 and beyond. It's been on a consistent path like this every single year. The first year that I started working with that practice, they grew over $1 million. Why? Because David understands not knowing the answer is a powerful leadership tool. So when somebody comes to him and says, what do I do about such and such? His response is, who's responsible for that area? How do we make that decision? What do you think needs to happen? And of course, over time, the people on the team, first of all, David's stress level, I'm not saying there's not any stress because you and I both know that's not true. If you have a massively successful business, you have stress. But his stress, I would submit, is in the right places. His stress level is based on where he wants to be, and it's based on his growth. It's not based on the fact that he's choking because everything is revolving around him. What about the people on his team? They are part of something bigger. They're not employees, here to do tasks and stay within the lines. They are partners in the business. They view themselves that way. They're constantly looking at the big picture. They're constantly judging whether or not the thing that they're doing in the task is supporting where it is that they're trying to go. Everybody on the team is clear about the decision making, and they're clear that they are individually responsible for areas. If there's a question about a particular area and it's not this person's, they go to the other person, and communication is wide open in front of the whole team. Everybody has areas of responsibility, including David. Massively successful business. The business has an overhead of about 42%, and they are, again, on a long-term upward trajectory. So what we're talking about here is 3 key components to effective leadership, and the number one and the most important thing is this: you have to be willing to not know the answer and understand that that is a value. Don't view yourself as, I'm the leader, all the decisions have to come through me. It doesn't work that way, y'all. It just does not work that way. The number 2 key component to being an effective leader is this. And again, I could have gone a lot of different ways. I picked the most important ones that I see people struggle with all the time. And the number 2 one is this: a great leader not only gives that authority that we talked about a moment ago, but displays trust with the authority. Now, what are we talking about here? Well, let's go back to John and David, right? John views himself as, I'm the captain of the ship. Everything has to come through me. So he's dealing with all the stresses. His team is dealing with all the stresses that come from that. David, on the other hand, understands that as the leader, what he has to do is be unwilling to know the answers. That's okay. And he's looking at every single opportunity, every communication, every single situation as an opportunity to display and to give over authority to the people around him. He is very clear that he did not hire people to come in and perform tasks. He hired people to come in and take over areas of his business. Understand where it is we're trying to go, understand how we make decisions, come to the table with a plan, and then let's all vet it. So, the number 2 thing is an effective leader is constantly looking for opportunities to give away authority and constantly displaying and being the example of trust within that authority. What I mean by that is you can't just give away authority but then not trust somebody to come to the table with their own opinions. I'm not saying give them the checkbook and let them go play. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is give them authority over the area, display trust that you have in them. This starts from day one. I'm not hiring you to come in and perform a task. I'm hiring you to come in and be a partner in my business and take over this particular area. So I'm going to give you total trust. I'm going to give you all the authority you need to come to the table. Here's the way we make decisions. I want you to come to the table with a plan. And me and the rest of my partners are going to vet your plan through that decision-making criteria. And we're going to expect you to vet other people's plans. And so the number 2 thing is a great leader is always looking for ways to display trust and give away authority. What we're talking about is the 3 key components to being an effective leadership. This is one of the most slippery subject matters that I've run across in the last 25 years of being in business, and it's not something that's taught, but it's something that you need to know. And in a lot of cases, I realize if you're driving down the road, you're listening to this, and you're going, man, that just goes totally opposite of the way I've been operating. You know, that doesn't surprise me. Here's what I would challenge you to do. As we walk through these 3 things, don't just listen to it. Figure out what you need to do to start untangling what's going on and recreating it within these 3 components. It will affect your stress level. It will affect the growth of your business. And you will see the people on your team begin to sprout wings and fly. The people on your team are a lot more resourceful and a lot more willing to take on the responsibility that you've been giving them up to this point. And you are losing all kinds of creativity within your business. You are losing all kinds of growth opportunities because you're not tapping into that creativity, because the people on your team are looking at themselves as employees. I stay in this lane. I do this little task. Great leaders tap into that creativity in a very big way by doing these three things. And the number one thing is be unwilling to know the answer. A great leader is not somebody who knows all the answers so that everything runs through them. Number two is a great leader is always looking for ways to give away authority and display trust. And the number three big thing is this. If you're focused on the first two things, number three becomes very apparent. The number three thing is this. The key component for a great leader in the third step is a great leader is keeping his main focus not on the minutia, but he's keeping his focus, his attention, he's keeping his actions, he's keeping conversations, all based around the ultimate vision, the decision-making criteria, and the results. Now, let me be more specific about this. We talked about the key component number one is a leader is not someone who has all the answers, and we talked about that. Number two, a leader is somebody who's looking for opportunities to always give away authority and display trust. The number three thing that a great leader does is, because he has now shed himself of having to be involved in every single little decision. You got people on your team now who are responsible for making decisions in those areas and come to the table. Now you are free. You're not the production supervisor, the vice president of sales. You're not the bookkeeper. You're not the CPA. You're not, wearing all of these hats. Now your focus is 100%. Where are we trying to go? That vision. What is the overall vision? Every opportunity you have, your focus is there. You're communicating. You're exemplifying it. Your actions are about it. Your conversations are about it. I think it was Jack Welch who said the number one role of a great leader is to effectively communicate the vision and then relentlessly, at every possible opportunity, drive that vision to fruition with the people on your team. You want everybody on your team to be able to recite that vision. You want everybody on your team to understand the big picture. And you as the leader, that's your number one focus. Second thing where your focus is decision-making criteria. Remember, the reason probably in the past that you've not turned over decisions is because you felt comfortable making them because you understand how you want things done. Okay, you've got to be able to reduce that. If you're going to have the people on your team be partners in your business, they need to know how you make decisions. Well, you got to have some criteria. We've talked about that on our channel, on this channel, and many other channels in the past. Most of our businesses decide at the end of the day, I'm trying to serve four things, and these are the decision-making criteria that we're going to use in everything, right? Any decision we make, it's got to serve our vision, it's got to serve our team, it's got to serve our clientele, and it's got to serve our bottom line profitability. Doesn't matter what the decision is, how big or small, I'm going to figure out a way to serve those four things. Now you've got that decision-making criteria. That's the second part of your focus as the real leader of the ship, right? You're keeping big picture on the vision, and you're keeping the focus on the criteria. So think about the other two things we talked about. Somebody comes to you and says, hey, what do you want me to do about such and such? That's a teachable moment. You're number one, unwilling to know the answer. And number two, you're looking for opportunities to give away authority and display trust. This is a teachable moment. Your focus is on vision and your focus is on decision-making criteria and results. So when somebody comes to you in the moment and things are busy and they go, what do you want me to do about such and such? You want to ask them a question. What do you believe? Decision-making criteria. What do you think best serve our clients, our team, our vision, and our bottom line profitability? Right? It's a great question. Who is responsible for the area? Another great question. What is it you're trying to achieve? You're trying to tap into that creativity. You don't want this person, and it's a very small window of a teachable moment. Somebody comes to you and you're in the middle of three things and they go, what do I do about such and such? How would you like me to handle this? If you stop and go, do this, this, and this, you have completely eliminated all three of these things and your ability to be an effective leader, and you've actually pulled the creativity rug right out from under the person who wanted or possibly had the potential to be a great team player and a partner in your business. Now they're an employee. They came to you, they asked a question, you gave them directive, they went away, now they're going to implement, but they haven't done anything, right? They haven't learned anything. When you'll implement these three things and keep those three things in mind, that person in the moment when they come to you, Slow it down, use it as a teachable moment, ask them some questions, get them to think and tap into that creativity, and then have them bring a plan to the table. And then you and everybody else on your team can support that person to be thinking in terms of the decision-making criteria, the overall vision, and then the third piece of that, which is the results. At the end of the day, effective leadership is one of the most important things, not only to the success of your business, not only to the resourcefulness, the creativity, the longevity, the enjoyment factor in the culture of the people on your team. It's also a huge, huge factor when it comes to your stress level. And at the end of the day, if you will implement these three things, the three key components. You with me on this, Mr. Producer? I got a little excited.
Yeah.
I got a little excited.
It's better when you are.
It is?
Yeah.
Because I didn't even talk about the background. I didn't talk about, I was so excited about this subject matter because, again, this is one of the things that we see so often that is one of the slipperiest things. People don't know how to get their hands around it. We're talking about the three components to effective leadership. Number one, a great leader is someone who doesn't know all the answers and is willing not to know all the answers. That puts you in a position to have people of authority around you who you want to take responsibility for those answers. Number two, a great leader, the second key component is a great leader is always looking for opportunities to give away authority and display trust at a very high level. The number three big thing is keeping the main thing the main thing. Put all your focus, all your attention, all your work, all your actions, your conversations, your words, everything is based around the overall vision of where you're trying to go, the decision-making criteria that you use to make decisions, and the results that you're after. At the end of the day, if you will keep your focus on those three things, regardless of what has to happen. Some of you are listening to this right now and you're going, dude, this is the answer. I've been choking, man. Like, if I don't change this, I'm not going to have an asset. Really, what I got right now is, like, everything is coming to me. I'm not giving away authority. I'm not displaying trust. I got a bunch of employees. I'm not able to focus on the main thing, which is vision, also this stuff. So basically, I don't have an entrepreneurial business. Basically, I got a high-paying job. And I am the everything in the business. The challenge of that is if I go, that business is no longer an asset. If you've got these three components through effective leadership in place, your business is an asset because anybody on that team can be replaced and the business can still go. That's an asset that can be transferred to ownership. It can be bought and be sold. At the end of the day, it's not only about happier clients, better results, making more money. It's also about enjoying the ride. And that's why we come to you every single week with Grow Profits. Be effective in your leadership. Implement those three components. If you need us, please reach out. We're happy to help. You can find us at thecrabtreegroup.com. Is that the best place to find us, Mr. Producer?
Yeah.
You can find us on all the social media channels. Reach out. We're happy to support you. Have a great week.